Miami Heat got blown out at home in embarrassing fashion to the Orlando Magic in the season opener. And after one game, I'm confident enough to suggest some changes that must happen to the Miami Heat as well if we want to have a season not like what the first game showed. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and I got to get a little temperature check of the Heat fans here at the channel, though. Are you concerned about Miami after the first game? If you are, type Y. If you're like others and say, well, it's just game 1 of 82, they just had a bad performance, first time playing in this new styled offense, I'm not worried, type your ends. The first change that has to be made, and this one really isn't a change, but I needed to address this situation, is that Jimmy Butler needs to wake the hell up. What happened yesterday with Jimmy Butler? It was a travesty. The Miami Heat will not be a good basketball team if Jimmy Butler continuously shows up and plays like he did yesterday. Butler talked about all offseason long about wanting a new contract extension. Pat Riley didn't give him one, and everyone was like, well, Jimmy's now in a contract year. He's going to show up motivated more now than ever. He was not motivated in the first game of the season, scoring only 3 points and shooting 1 of 8 from the field. It was absolutely abysmal, the effort on the offensive end I saw from Jimmy Butler, and it looks exactly like how it did last season for Jimmy when the Heat offense couldn't get anything going because he wasn't giving any effort. And I want to talk about these two stars right here, man, because this is just the moral of the story. Like, if your two best players play like this, you are never going to win a basketball game. Like, how much of a joke is it that Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo combined for 12 points on 2 of 13 shooting? Oh. It was terrible. Now, this is a mess up on me, by the way, with Bam Adebayo's stats. It should be 7 of 10 from the free throw line. I was thinking 0 of 2 from 3 because Bam did go 0 and 2 from 3. And honestly, Jimmy Butler also went 0 for 2 from 3. But, like, this is the moral of the story. Like, you are never going to win a basketball game. You could be playing the Harlem Globetrotters and the Heat Stars. If they do what they did yesterday, you are still going to lose that game because this team relies on Jimmy and Bam to lead them offensively. They don't have to be a carry because they kind of carry on defense, but they do have to lead you offensively, be aggressive, put pressure on the rim, draw attention from the opposing team. And think about how the Magic cooked Miami, and we'll talk about the defense in just a second, but what happened? Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner penetrated, collapsed the defense, kicked it out, good ball movement, and you get wide open threes like Gary Harris going 6 of 9 from 3. You need your two guys to take more initiative on the offensive end in order to create better offensive flow. And maybe it is the new offense. We talked a lot about it in the preseason about how this offense is a little bit different because 5 out. But here's an issue that I also found as well with this Heat starting lineup and Heat group yesterday. Well, a lot of the action was with Jimmy and Bam sitting in the corners like spot-up shooters. Sure, can they do it? Yes. Is that their best ability? No. I should not be seeing Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, and Nikola Jovic play 3-man action at the top of the key with Jimmy and Bam sitting in the corner. It was an absolute travesty what I watched on the offensive end from the starting unit after what I thought was going to be a good group after the preseason that we saw. Which brings us to our second change. Does the starting lineup need to be changed already? Because if you look deep into the statistics from that group, in the first game against Orlando, it was ugly, and guess what? More ugly. They played 14 minutes together last night, and these are the numbers. They scored 27 points in 14 minutes. They shot 29% from the field and an abysmal 18% from beyond the arc. The offensive rating was, guess what, folks? Ugly. 93.1. The defensive rating was probably average. That's what you would expect. But when you see your starting group have a net rating of negative 16.9, yeah, that's going to be bad. It was as bad as you could possibly have hoped for this group. And I can't even use the excuse that they have never played together because this is the first time they've ever played together as a 5-man group in the regular season. But they played a significant amount of minutes together in the preseason. I know it's the preseason, and it's not game plan for. It's not trying. The effort isn't as there as you would expect in the regular season. But for it to be this bad after all the work they've put in together this preseason, it was just sad to see, man. And it's frustrating to watch as a Heat fan. But make sure you are subscribed because we are not going anywhere. Trust me, we are live for almost every single game. During the football season, we can't really go live on the weekend, so not able to go live this Saturday against Game 2 against the Hornets. But we'll be back again live on Monday and next Wednesday against the Pistons and Knicks. Hit that sub button to get to 15K subscribers ASAP. All right, one concerning thing I did want to mention about this starting group, though, is that the defense got absolutely exposed. And if you remember going back to the offseason, now I did flip my tune a little bit and get positive about this group going into the preseason and stuff like that. But I said all offseason long that the defense would be a concern because Terry Rozier and Tyler Hero simply, I don't think, could play together in the backcourt because of defensive purposes. And if you look at what Orlando did offensively yesterday to generate so many open looks, and open threes and shots at the rim, they targeted Tyler Hero and Nikola Jovic religiously. They either called for a screen with Bam Adebayo guarding Banchero to get Hero switched on, or to where they'd have to hedge and run back, and then they'd not be able to recover. The defense was in rotation, wide open threes, or they just get the switch, attack downhill. Heat would have to send two. Shocker, kick out, open three. Like, it was just an absolute train wreck. And the disappointing part is we know Paolo Banchero is really good. He had 33 points yesterday. We know that Hero would never be able to guard him if he got switched on, and they would like to try to target him. But the sad part is that they targeted Nikola Jovic so often. And we thought that with his improved third-year leap and playing at 240 pounds, adding more muscle and more experience, that he'd be able to handle some of these defensive switches and have that switch scheme with Bam work out pretty well. It was not the case. They targeted Hero and Jovic time after time after time, and they just absolutely cooked Miami on the defensive end. But I did also want to show this, because if I'm going to suggest there might be a change to this starting unit, we have to look at the second unit as well, because this group was absolutely abysmal. And yes, you see Terry Rozier's picture twice here. He played 32 minutes. He played the most minutes on the team yesterday, and he spent a lot of time on that second unit. The two units that played the most. The starting group played 14.1 minutes, and then this is the second unit that played 13 minutes yesterday. It was a little bit better offensively, scoring 30 points, shooting 45.5% from the field, and shooting 37.5% from three, but the defense on this unit was horrific. Offensive rating gets a massive bump, but that would be the worst defense in the NBA by quite a large margin, by the way. That is horrible to see a defensive rating that high. And you would have expected a little bit better of wing presence from Hawkes and Highsmith, but Thomas Bryant's the worst defensive center in the NBA. Duncan Robinson still can't defend and fouls the shit out of every single opponent. Rozier was active in the passing lane, sure, but it's not like he can guard up due to his small stature. He's only 6'2", 6'3". It just was a disappointing, and all the concerns that I had about this team in the offseason that I tried to turn a blind eye to and be optimistic about in the preseason just reared its ugly head. And it makes me a little bit concerned about the season going forward. But you make sure you get started with DraftKings, the #1 sportsbook and casino, and you can play any way you want. Straight bets, parlays, player props. DraftKings is the best, and I appreciate them hopping on board here at the Heat Report.
The NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HEATCHAT. That's code HEATCHAT for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/bball.
And you can already make plays every single day with DraftKings, the king of NBA player props. I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 43-plus points, rebounds, assists, -125. I think the Spurs keep it close with the Mavericks tonight. Give me them plus 8.5. And then Bilal Coulibaly, he's having a second-year breakout for the Wizards. 10-plus points, plus 110 against the Boston Celtics. Make sure you download DraftKings and use code HEATCHAT to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring today's show. All right, the third change that needs to be made is Alec Burks. He needs to get in the game. I don't know if it was a surprise or a shock, but either way, Burks did not play in the season opener against Orlando, and I think Miami could have used his spark. And with an offense that struggled as much as they did, I think he could provide an offensive explosion. And if you're scared and concerned about him potentially not being good enough defensively, well, I got great news for you. It can't get much worse defensively. So there's nowhere to go but up for this Miami Heat defense. Burks, in his career, at least over the last 4 seasons, let's shrink it down to the last 4 years, has averaged 10-plus points per game every single year, shot around 40% from 3 every single year. This is a player that, to me, can provide a nice spark off of the Miami Heat bench. And he was really good for the Pistons last year before being traded to New York, where his numbers would have been up in terms of the 40% three-point shooting like it was, but even a down year for him is 38.7. I like to see him on the floor, and heck, if it even has to come at the cost of Duncan Robinson's minutes, I might be willing to do that. Duncan made a pair of threes yesterday, but he also shot 2 of 8 from the field and was horrific on the defensive end. I think Burks would be better defensively. Might be marginal, but it's a little bit better, and I think he could provide you with some of the same three-point shooting. I know Duncan's getting paid $19 million, and Alec Burks is only on the vet min, but he might be a better solution for the Miami Heat off the bench. I don't know if the switch gets made now, but it's one that I have my eye on making because I'd like to see him get in. Another player that I think should be in, Khalil Ware. I have told you guys quite a bit that he's probably not going to play in the first couple weeks, maybe month of the season, because the Heat don't trust him, and they don't think he's ready quite yet to handle NBA bigs and NBA rotations. Well, if you watched last night's game, which I'm assuming you did, the Heat clearly need more size, and that's why they drafted him 15th overall over some other players that I thought would have been nice additions with that pick. And Bam didn't really make a 3, so it's hard to have that spacing, but when you were going up against a team in Orlando, and maybe it's matchup dependent, that has Wendell Carter, Mo Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, they are a lengthy, big, physical, athletic team. And you know what the Heat lack right now? Size and athleticism. And it was on display yesterday that they were the less athletic team across the board. Across the board. And you know who might be the most athletic player on your team? It might be Khalil Ware, who sits at 7 feet tall, 4.5 wingspan, bunnies out the gym. Like, they need more size, and maybe that will help limit the amount of offensive rebounds the Magic could have had. They had 18 offensive rebounds. 18! You lost the game in 2 areas yesterday. We can talk about how bad the Heat did offensively, but you lost it in the three-point battle. They had about 18, 20 more points than you from beyond the arc. And you lost it in the second chance. You had 9 offensive rebounds. They had 18. They had so many second chance opportunities. I don't know if it was laziness. I don't know if it was the lack of size and athleticism and Thomas Bryant being the worst rebounding big of all time. Either way, it would not have hurt to get Khalil in the game. Sure, he needs to add weight, needs to add size and strength, but he at least gives Miami length and rim protection to help out Bam Adebayo inside defensively. That's kind of my thing. Like, listen, he's only going to get better by experience. Throw him into the fire. Why not? Put him in there against some teams, and maybe it's matchup dependent. But against a team like Orlando that has a lot of size, that should be something Miami tries to do. Khalil and Bam together, see what happens. Nothing could be worse than what we watched last night. Like, seriously. Now, maybe this Saturday against Charlotte isn't the time to make that change, as they're not the biggest team. Brandon Miller also dealing with a hip injury. Miles Bridges plays the 4. Mark Williams is their center. It's like that's not the biggest front court of all time, so maybe it waits a little bit. But against a team that has size, athleticism like Orlando, might be better to throw in Khalil Ware and see what ultimately happens. All right, I gave you 4 things that I think might need to change for Miami, but what's the one thing that needs to be changed by Miami in your opinion? Drop it down in the comment section. Out of the 4 that I gave, the number one thing that needs to change if Miami has any aspirations to be a good playoff team this season is Jimmy Butler. He needs to show up. And I was optimistic that him being in a contract year would inspire him to show up in the regular season. Maybe he'll play 65-plus games. But if he gives you the effort that he gave you yesterday, wish it was only 40. I'd take 40 games with Jimmy Butler trying over 65-plus of what we saw last night. Your best player and most expensive player needs to show up and needs to actually care about playing basketball if you want to win games. We can't wait until just the postseason to try to flip a switch. You got to have a strong regular season so you're not in the play-in and you're not playing a Boston or New York or whoever is the top of the Eastern Conference in the first round. Can't do it. Sick of it. Jimmy, show the fuck up. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed because we dropping content on a daily basis. Live again next Monday against the Pistons. Live on Wednesday against the Knicks as well. Join the channel and subscribe because we're not going anywhere.